morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. Let's call the meeting to order for Polk County Commissioners Court for September 14th, 2021. If you've not already done so, please turn off or mute your cell phones and any other devices. And at this time, we'd like to ask Sunny Hathaway with Central Baptist Church to lead us in prayer. Wherever you'd like to.
All right, let's pray. God, I want to thank you for the start of this day. I want to thank you, Father, for this court. And I want to thank you for the ways in which, God, you have blessed us with authority here on earth. We thank you that authority does rest with you, but Lord, you've entrusted it to us, Lord, to manage the affairs of our lives. And we just pray for this court. We ask, God, for you to give clarity, fairness. We pray for wisdom. We pray, Father, that you would provide everything that is needed throughout this morning and through the decisions that need to be made in this room. God, I thank you for those who serve this city and our county. And we pray for your blessing to be upon each and every one of them. Lord, we love you, and we thank you for the day with the start of this morning. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Hathaway. You're welcome to join us, but if you'd like to exit, then that will be fine as well. Did anyone sign up for public comments?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have three. Kyle Parrish, subdivision rules and regulations, Craig Jones, and F.D. Rowe, Polk County real estate rules.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that pink one yours or mine?
Yes, ma'am, it is. There we go.
Perfect. Thanks. Okay, gentlemen, which one of you wants to start?
What's that?
Okay, Kyle, go ahead. Never mind. You're the first one up here. So-
Out of 15?
Yes, but your public comments occurs first, so that before we get there and make a decision, we've already listened to you.
If
Okay.
you'd like to get up and speak.
If you would like to speak.
We just basically want to talk about the roads, you know, this chip and seal.
And that's fine?
And
Sure.
Do you
back
mind
in-
stepping up here, Bob, just so,
Back in 2008, we put in a subdivision, Queen Creek's runs, familiar with it. And we did not chip and seal the road. Since then, we've had to grade it one time a year. That's it. POA dues $200 a year, and they've actually gained money. Had we chip and seal that road, I'll guarantee you it'd be costing more than that for the POA.
It's true.
Because of holes and stuff. And you saw that road, it looks just like the day we put it in. And that's what we want to do on our next subdivision.
and that is on here for consideration, and we've received that information from you all,
Right.
as well as we have the engineer here.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else?
No? Very well, thank you. Okay, item number 3, information report. Presentation of section 3 is required by the Texas Department of Agriculture for CDBG contract number 7220361, which is the water improvements project. Originally, Leslie Waxman was going to be here to make the presentation. She lives a little bit south of us, and so she was impacted more by the hurricane. So what we're going to do to fulfill that requirement from GLO and HUD is I'm going to go through, you all have the presentation in your packet, so I'm just basically going to go through the basics so that we have a complete record of it. So this is pertaining to contract number 7220361, which is our water improvement project. In the amount, the CDBG grant was in the amount of $275,000, which was strictly for water improvements. The grant is funded through HUD and the Department of Agriculture, so we have to follow all HUD guidelines, which include the low to moderate income requirements that are specified by HUD for any project. So included in the grant is the grant administrator and the engineering, which we have already procured. And now we're moving forward with the primary contractor, which will also include subs. And this will be one construction contract altogether. It needs to, due to HUD requirements, it needs to favor Section 3 workers and Section 3 businesses which are low to moderate. And it actually can also include targeted Section 3 workers, which are low to moderate income workers that live in the area. And it creates opportunities for them for improved or increased income. Anybody that's interested in moving forward and becoming a primary contractor or a sub can contact them, and they can also get more information at texasagriculture.gov or hudapps.hud.gov, or they can contact this office and we will provide them with the information for how they qualify to be Section 3 workers or Section 3 businesses as well. So basically, the CDBG grant program emphasizes that your low to moderate population should get an opportunity to benefit from any construction in the area. Are there any questions over that? Do we have any other elected officials that wish to make a report or presentation? No? Okay, item number 4, new business, is your consent agenda. We have addendums on B. Addendum number 1 in the amount of $21,413.14. Addendum number 2 in the amount of $245,798.46. And addendum number 3 in the amount of $12,199.31. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody wishes to pull or discuss?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Overstreet.
Judge, is that the guy back there that's on D?
If you wish to pull,
No, not necessarily pull it out.
Josh McDonald.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, step on up here and introduce yourself, or stand up and introduce yourself.
J.W. McDonald, Houston fireman, and been a constable for 3.5 years, so I appreciate the time to work with y'all and look forward to it.
So do you go by JW?
Yes, ma'am.
Very well.
All right. All right.
Very well.
Second.
So you're gonna second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Vincent, any further discussion or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You will note that we also had that we have the contract in there for Livingston Fire Department, which is a separate contract than our MOUs with the other fire departments. And so we did provide the information for you for how the fire chiefs told us to split out the money. The total amount of money that was in the budget for volunteer fire departments this year from the county, the contribution from the county was a little over $208,000. Okay, item number 5, consider approval of personnel matters as follows. We had 5 emergency hires. Review and consideration of personnel action form requests submitted since the last meeting and review of any authorized emergency hires. We had 2 in the sheriff, 1 in Road and Bridge 2, and 2 in Road and Bridge 3. All the PFs were included for your review.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Vincent, second, Commissioner Robertson. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consider reappointment of Polk County Fire Marshal for a 2-year term beginning October 1, 2021, and that is Mr. Chapman, who's sitting next to JW.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Vincent,
Second.
second, Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5C, consider approval of update to personnel management system. The updates were the summary of the changes and the copy of the significant updates. It was included for your review in your packet. And it's updates to Book 1 of the personnel management system, which was based on the information that's included in the FY 2022 adopted budget. And to Book 2, based on the decisions made by the court at the last meeting in reference to the paid quarantine leave, which was required by the legislature through House Bill 2073. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion to approve Commissioner Overstreet, second Commissioner Robertson. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, consider a request for revisions and amendments to the budget as follows. Your FY 2021 budget revisions, number 2021-18, and amendments, number 2021-18A, is presented by the County Auditor's Office. A copy of all the proposed revisions and amendments was included for your review.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve,
Second.
Commissioner Robertson, second, Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consider approval of offers to purchase tax foreclosed properties as follows. All in precinct 2. Commissioner Vincent,
Motion to sell.
motion to sell, Commissioner Vincent, second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, review a drought index in Polk County and consider any necessary action relating to the countywide burn ban. Our Fire Marshal Jacob Chapman is here, and our EMC Coordinator Courtney Comstock is also here, and you've received the drought information. And I think Carrie basically called it and sent an email to everyone and said, if we'll go ahead and put it on the agenda, then it'll rain.
Motion to delete.
So, do you wanna hear what Jacob and Courtney have to say first, or are you just gonna?
Just delete it.
Okay, motion to delete,
Second.
Commissioner Overstreet, second Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, discuss and consider action relating to possible rescheduling of the regular Commissioners' Court session set for Tuesday, November 23rd, due to the court's attendance at the Deep East Texas Council of Governments meeting hosted by the Alabama Coushatta Tribe.
I'll
So-
make that motion.
Okay, would you like to move it to the Monday,
Yes.
or,
I mean, that's, unless the other, you guys have something else.
just the Monday before? It was supposed to be on
It's fine.
Tuesday, November 23rd. We can't slide further in the week because we end up on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's still on 22nd.
So November 22nd?
Yes, motion.
Okay, that
I'll
comes as a
second.
motion from Commissioner Robertson, second Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One thing that I do need to make of note here is, and we will have it on the next court agenda, is that there's actually a conflict in October with our meeting and with the conference, the County Judges and Commissioners Conference in Round Rock. But since I'm not going to Round Rock, I didn't catch it. So we'll put it on the next one for discussion, so kind of look at your calendars. Okay, item number 10, receive nuisance abatement hearing determination for cause number A00440 and consider order to abate the nuisance. Following a hearing in the Polk County Justice Court, it was determined that the public nuisance referred to in this cause be immediately abated and removed by the Polk County Environmental Enforcement Officer and/or Polk County Commissioner, and the nuisance be disposed of as provided by the state law. Commissioner Vincent, I believe this is in your precinct.
Asking the court to approve abatement for a dwelling at the end of East Hickory in Yopon Cove subdivision. It was basically abandoned from the tornado and damaged also by the tornado. But there's enough of it there that there's some kids and stuff that's
Health and
using it
safety
for
issues.
purposes other than a clubhouse. And so, anyway, I'd like to tear it down if it's possible.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, consider any and all necessary action regarding annual bids for the purchase of materials.
Judge, do you wanna move that to the end, being that it takes quite a while?
Sure, we can. Okay, so let's move 11 to the end. Item number 12, discuss and consider any and all necessary action relating to proposed expenditures from maintenance, capital outlay buildings, which were budgeted funds, for the installation of secure transaction window for JP Precinct 3, and the HVAC unit for the Polk County Subhouse in Courthouse Inn on Alaska. We had discussed before doing the safety and security measures for all of the JPs and some of our other offices. And so we've got a quote on that. And then we also have a proposal from Delta Heating and Cooling to utilize, to replace the HVAC unit for the sub courthouse in on Alaska. Your
What's your
turn.
recommendation?
Recommend the court approve the window from Covenant Security Equipment, amount of $5,100, and approve the bid from Delta T for $3,490 for the air conditioning replacement that caused all the damage in Commissioner Vincent's office.
Okay.
You still have the funds in that line item.
You do have funds, or do I need to help you with it? or-
We have funds.
No, sir, those are the funds that we allocated for buildings, the IAH monies, but he has to come to the court to utilize any of those monies.
Motion to approve.
Motion to
I'd
approve.
also like to say that Jay and his department did an excellent job in getting that, it was a walk-in Monday morning, it's laying on the floor, and they got it back together amidst all of their problems they had with COVID, and they got it back together in
Well,
Thanks,
they-
sir.
Timely
the-
manner.
The maintenance
Look
department
good.
has done a tremendous job.
Yeah, they did a good job. Appreciate that.
Thank all of you.
Okay, Commissioner Overstreet, motion.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, discuss and consider any and all necessary action relating to proposed expenditures from general fund balance for the installation of indoor air purification systems in county buildings to prevent the spread of communicable diseases. Might as well stay right there, Jay.
Yes, ma'am.
The maintenance department in this office had been researching other options and looking for ways to go through the HVAC systems. We had installed this in the tax office when we had our bats, when we had the bat mitigation. So I'll share one of the fun facts. Fun fact, it is illegal to exterminate bats in the state of Texas. And extreme care must be taken to not separate the babies from their mamas, which what happens when you block access to the buildings. So, we had to get creative with our bats in the Belfry at the tax office. So we did the HVAC, it seems to be working, in that office. And so we went ahead and moved forward because we had a large outbreak that occurred in the judicial center, because of court resuming. So we went ahead and moved forward, and did an expenditure of $61,604, which was our CARES Act money, to try to alleviate some of that. And in the meantime, we went ahead and got maintenance to do some research and see what it would take for us to do the same thing in other county buildings, because that would also alleviate any issues that we have during flu season or with other contagious diseases in public buildings. Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Okay. Actually, the ones that have already been purchased, we are complete at the jail. They were put in the jail also because of the confined space and not being able to get out. Those are complete. We're actually scheduled to meet this morning to get a game plan together for the judicial building, so those are here. We just, the safeties on the units when we open the doors are gonna shut them down.
So the jail's complete?
The
jail's
jail
complete.
and the sheriff's office.
Sheriff Department, well, when I
All
say
of
jail,
all of that
that's
building
done.
is complete.
It's done with the air scrubbers, and then, like I say, we actually are getting a game plan. We're either gonna work evenings or weekends, whatever it takes to not shut the units down if the weather, prohibits from doing that, because it gets so hot so quick, so. So we're working on that right now, and those are probably one and a half day process of getting those in. It's just a matter of timing right now. Okay, during the research, we started with the air scrubbers, and we found out there's probably about 1,000 products out there to choose from. But the ones highly recommended, and in the research we found, you have the air scrubbers, which are 99% effective, they say, in controlling COVID. And depending on where you have to place them in the units, which some units we're having to place them in spots that it does affect here, is it's 94, 95% effective in controlling it. It's just, that's where they stand. Now, in the research, we found the metal halo is another product, Remy Halo, I'm sorry. Remy Halo is another product out there that is the only one that legally can says it controls the SARS, or kills SARS, which is the COVID. So in that, we found that they do have the regular UV lighting in them and the LED lighting. The LED lighting is a little more expensive in the beginning, but less on your maintenance end of it. So the long and short is no matter which product you go with, air scrubber, the Remy Halo, UV, either one, is the cell, which is the light, is eventually got to be changed. On that, the LED is the air scrubber and the UV in the Remy Halos are 2 to 3 years recommended. 2 years is what all the salespeople and everybody I talked to said. They become less effective at that point. With the LED bulbs, being LED, the cost is down, of course, and you can go 4 to 5 years before you change those bulbs out. Either one of them is gonna have a cost associated with it down the road. Bulb replacement is anywhere from $114 to $150 on the one bulb, and $395 to $570 on the other bulbs.
$3.95.
No, $300.
$395.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you heard correctly.
You heard correctly. So the long and short is we're looking at probably every 2 to 3 years of spending approximately $18,000, or every 4 to 5 years spending around $21,000 to $22,000 possibly.
If you go with the lights.
If we go with the LEDs, they all got the same bulb in them. It's just a different product, and the LED bulbs cost more, but they last longer. So in turn, you're buying a little more expensive bulb, but you're only buying it every 4 to 5 years instead.
So
of
the air scrubber doesn't have a bulb in it?
Yes.
It does.
Yes, it does,
That's
but
what I'm
it's
saying, the air
not.
scrubber bulb has to be replaced too every 2 to 3 years.
How often they gotta be cleaned?
They don't, there's no maintenance on them. Whenever you change the bulb, it cleans everything and all that too. You put
So
them
you
in
don't have
pretty
to,
much.
you don't have to clean them in between
No, sir.
for their effectiveness?
No, sir. They actually, nothing really collects on them so much per se. It actually, it kills everything in the air, and I don't understand this. I've been in the business a long time, but I don't understand it. It kind of coats everything in the room basically, to where the virus just doesn't travel. More or less is what it boils down
I
to.
just meant if the lights get dusty or something like that.
No, we, of course, we'll put it on a maintenance deal to check them. They said the same thing, is they don't need nothing, but until I'm sure of how they work and everything on it and all, I'll still be checking them. And the nice thing is where we're putting them in, they do have a little blue indicator light, and they wire into either existing transformer or a new transformer. And in some cases, they're gonna have to put new transformers, and it's all in the bid to do that already. But, the little blue indicator light, when we change the filters every month, we can check and see that the light's on and working and all that. Everything I've read is there's really no maintenance. You put them in and that's it until it's time to change the bulbs. And what we'll do in that case is we'll put it on our calendar basically, is figure what, 4.5 years, basically, whatever it works out to 1,500 to 1,600 days, we'll just put it on our calendar to pop up and let us know it's time to change those. Of course, then I'll come back to the court or we'll plan it in the budget that year or something where we're ahead of the game, knowing it's gotta be done that year.
We would put those bulbs on the same rotation that we have other things that are expensive to
So the
run.
system itself though, besides the bulbs, everything?
Everything pretty much stays there. The bulb is the only
Right.
replacement part you really have to worry about. And
So the system around that lasts for indefinitely, or?
I can't say that. Nobody else would say that, but the bulb is the only maintenance right now that anybody's had to do. Of course, this is new to everybody as far as, they've been out, but as far as using on wide scale like this and all, it's a new product.
So is the system that, the LED works off of equally as expensive as the light bulb versus the other?
They're pretty competitive on prices here, and for instance, let me find them in here.
We have on your
Right,
information.
if we have to replace one,
Delta T Heating and Cooling was, for the air scrubber, was at $52,585.62. And, all weather AC heating, was at $56,864.65.
right,
And then you also have a bid, the low bid for Delta T for the Remy Halos at $66,177.50.
Right. But once we get outside of warranty, if, I'm assuming that y'all would replace them, or will you have to call somebody to come in?
No, sir,
No,
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 sir,
we would replace the
they're
bulbs.
simple enough, I made sure of that we could be able to do the maintenance on them, we just have to purchase them.
Okay.
And that's, of course, we're
So
talking
something we can do
170
ourselves.
some of them, but, in the total in the county, I think it's 174 in the county. So it's not gonna be just a one thing, quick, one we can do them all, but it's gonna take a little bit of time to do them all. But yes, we can replace them. The units are made to where we just, a couple of bolts, we take it right out, the bulb slips out like another one slips it in and put it back in. And we don't even have to unwire it or anything when we do that, so. So the installation will be a one-time deal, the maintenance will fall back on us as it comes about. So my recommendation right now with everything you got in front of you is we call it, of course, local contractors as much as we could because of it being, it's a new product to us and I want somebody on hand that we can get out here and explain something on it if we have to or whatever. But, the air scrubbers are considerably lower with everybody's bid, but they're all competitive in the same area. The Remy Halo is of course a little bit more for each one, but the LED bulbs, I only received, two that's got the LED bulbs on, McWilliams and Son and Delta T. And Delta T's bid is $66,177.50. That would be my recommendation, that we go with the Remy Halo. On the maintenance end of it, I don't like having two products. I don't like having two vendors, but in this case, it gives us, once we did the research, I feel this one's gonna be better for the county, a better investment for the county. And
So that's what you have at the jail?
no, at the jail right now is
We
air
have
scrubbers.
air scrubbers at the jail.
Air scrubbers at the jail. The Remy Halos, like I say, doing a little more research, this is what we found. We jumped in and did what we could to combat this as soon as we got the money to do it with. And then the further research, the LED, Remy Halo, the LED, of course, is the longer lasting bulb. So in the long run, going back to your original question of is do they go out? Not completely sure of that other than the bulbs, but if at some point they have to be replaced, I guess the quality of what we're getting, we can compare it then and, replace. Of course, by then they probably have 2,000 products out there to do it, but. So my recommendation is go with Delta T on the LEDs. There's 103 of them left in the county after we did the ones at the judicial and the jail and sheriff's department. And then, of course, like I said, we already got one in the tax office. And I will say this, for the purpose of putting it in the tax office was more the smell from the back.
Purification.
And it was, like they said, within 24 hours, it does a complete air exchange in the building. Takes about 24 hours to do a complete air exchange of everything, and then they said about 2 to 3 weeks of complete effectiveness. So, like I say, the jail's been in, some of them's been in for a little over a week now. No complaints as far as different odors or anything like that anybody even knows are there, so.
Okay, so the recommendation for maintenance is to go ahead and move forward with the Remy Halos with LED bulbs. If nothing else, that would also allow us, since this is new technology, to be able to compare, the effectiveness in terms of the two different types as well. And hopefully the cost of bulbs will go way down at some point in time.
We should.
I'm sure right now,
Yeah.
it's
Stop
blind demand, I'm
soldering
sure.
things,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so if we want to stay with the air scrubbers, then the low bid is Delta T Heating and Cooling at $52,585.62. So it depends on whether or not the court wants to stay with the air scrubbers, or if you wanna go with the Remy Halos with the LED bulbs.
Who did we get the air scrubbers through?
Best air.
Best Air.
Yes, sir.
That is a sizable jump from the air scrubbers to the Remy Halos.
So Delta T's submitted a bid for Remy Halos at 66, right?
Mhm.
Is that-
Yes.
And then who else submitted a bid? Not Century Air, All Weather?
All
No.
Weather Heating submitted a bid for, at $56,864.65. So,
Yeah, okay.
So you have 52,585.62, and then 56,864.65, and then the 66,177.50.
The ones on all-weather, what are they? Those scrubbers?
No, sir, that's Remy,
That's the Remy Halos.
Okay,
They didn't even bid on the air scrubbers.
well, we can go with the, I mean, so,
And on that note, real quick, is they were in the process of changing them for the city of Huntsville, or putting them in for the city of Huntsville, and they did their research and they switched over from the scrubbers to the Remy Halos.
Okay.
City of Huntsville did.
City of Huntsville.
I make a motion, we go with all-weather AC for the
Okay.
Remy Halos.
Comes as a motion?
Yes, 56,864.65.
Yeah.
Correct.
The ones without the LEDs? That's without the LED bulbs.
Okay, I'm confused now.
Yeah, it's the way it's worded.
Yeah,
is-
well, it's
Yeah.
worded on here because these are Remy Halos, but they don't have the LED
They
bulbs.
don't have the LEDs.
So
Okay.
you just as well go with this air scrubber then.
If
Or the,
you,
or the Delta T with the LED.
well, your maintenance in on the bulbs are gonna be every 2 to 3 years without,
$10,000 upfront cost is what it's gonna cost us. $10,000, roughly $10,000 difference.
yes, sir.
And then in 2 years, or to 5 years, you got $18,000 cost because they're stretched out. Which has 3 to 5, so you get another year.
Yeah, it's, the way it's worded, it looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
All-weather
all-weather
does the same
AC
thing
was
as Delta T,
submitted,
and it's
but
not-
it does not include the light bulbs, is what you're telling
The
us.
LED bulbs.
Okay. But Delta T
I'll
submitted.
rescind my
the-
motion then.
So the long and short is it's gonna take about 2 change-outs roughly to
Okay,
to
but
make the
right,
difference.
but right now, we need to
Yes.
look at these numbers right here.
Yes,
So right now, the long and short is that that's almost a $14,000 difference.
yes.
But it's the difference in the bulbs.
No, sir, the 52,585.62 is the air scrubber,
Right.
right? The
Right.
66,177.50 is the Remy Halos with LED bulbs.
Without,
Yeah, so it'd be so it would have
without
bulbs.
LED bulbs,
No, it
right?
has-
No.
it
No,
has
it would have the
LED.
LED bulbs. It's
Okay.
just kinda worded funny on here.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Delta T has a bid with bulbs for 66,177.50.
The 56,864.65 includes what? This is
Just-
Remy Halo without the LED bulbs?
Correct.
Yes.
What kind of bulbs they have in them? Just a standard bulb?
The standard
No.
UV bulbs.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's the difference is a little bit in your cost to run the LEDs, of course, you know that already, and then
Yeah.
the replacement is longer. So it does take a couple change-outs to make a difference, but you're correct, it is a big jump, but
Longevity.
longevity of it.
This be paid for through the COVID funds?
Yes, sir. And that's the thing, we wanna do something that will prevent COVID, but we also want something that will provide protection from this point forward. There's no purpose in just buying something because we have the COVID funds.
I understand
In this
that.
case, it'll continue to eliminate other viruses.
Variants.
Yes, sir. And the flu,
Variants.
and the flu, which has disappeared.
Okay, then, I'll make the motion to go with his recommendation of $66,177.50.
Very well. Which
Second.
would be Delta T, which is the Remy Halos with LED bulbs. Do I have a second, Commissioner Vincent?
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 14, consider approval to advertise a request for qualifications, RFQ for architecture services relating to renovations of the Polk County Sub Courthouse located in Corrigan, and appoint a committee to review and make recommendations regarding the RFQ. Commissioner Purvis and I met down at the Sub Courthouse. The configuration of those office spaces, there's a lot of wasted space, there's a lot of areas. And at this time, like the offices that were in there have come and gone. Things have changed. There's changes in security that need to be changed in that building. And so Commissioner Purvis would like for us to move forward, hire an architect and someone that can redesign that building and give it a better configuration. So we need to appoint a group, a committee that will move forward with the RFQs. My suggestion is going to be that Milt Purvis be on that committee.
I second that.
And then
Jay Burks.
we probably need to include maintenance and Jessica Hutchins. Is there anyone else that y'all would like to include on that committee?
I think they can work it out.
Okay, very well, so that'll be Commissioner Purvis, the Maintenance Department, and grants and contracts. Can I have a motion on that?
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Overstreet, Commissioner Vincent, any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15, discussion of subdivision regulations. The county's current regulations, default assumption is at the time the plat is approved, none of the construction has been completed, and a construction bond or letter of credit is required to ensure that all construction will be completed in 2 years. But as referenced by, that the roads will meet the standards, but do we really want them to feel obligated to complete those blacktop roads and then have large trucks going back and forth, tearing up the work that they've already done prior to them being able to close out the plat? As I understand
And
it.
plus, there's gonna be new houses built in this immediately, and, there's gonna be concrete trucks and everything else coming in next couple of years for sure.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. So, we communicated with our, engineering, firm, and one of the things that was recommended by Jed, and all of you all have the, information, the letter that we received from him, is that basically what his recommendation is at this time is that we make no change to the regulations as they stand, but allow for flexibility on the commissioner's part to take that into consideration. So in other words, until you would maintain the roads as they are, which would be dirt roads, and it would be at the discretion of the
Rock road.
excuse me, rock roads. And I should know better, right? So, the rock roads, allow the rock roads to stand, and then it would be at the discretion of the commissioner at that given time, and obviously based on the performance of the developer in terms of whether or not they want to allow the rock roads to remain until the majority of development or the majority of construction is over, and then have them put in the 2-year roads that will then be under consideration by the court.
But
To
that
meet
will be
standards.
decided by the commission.
That would allow the commissioners to have that flexibility without tying anybody's hands.
Right.
And that would also allow them to make that decision based on previous track record of whoever they're engaging with in terms of the roads and the developer. So that would prevent damage prior to occupancy from being excessive. It would avoid the developers doing the work twice, right? Because if we adhere strictly, and the way our subdivision regs are written, then you have that flexibility. The commissioners would have that flexibility. And that would also not increase the cost for developers to move forward. But Jed's recommendation is that we maintain our current regulations, and do a construction bond or a letter of credit, to ensure that the construction is finalized and done correctly, but
We've got a
that not
question
go
on
into
that.
effect.
We pretty well have done everything. So as far as the amount of this bond, is that, I think it should be a minimal bond, $25,000-$30,000, something like that, just in case, because everything's done.
Well, and that, again, is going to be at the discretion of the commissioners, because it can also be a letter of credit, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
As well, so that can also be done, so that's going to be at whatever the anticipated cost would be, because that's also going to be dependent on the size of the subdivision. So if someone comes in with a smaller subdivision, less roads, well, then obviously their bond is not going to be as high as a larger subdivision that contains more utilities, more roadways, et cetera, et cetera.
So the bond would not include the work that was already done, it would just include the cost, the current cost of the work that would still be left to be
Correct.
done.
Okay, that's
So
fair.
in this case, it would just be the cost of the chip seal
Of the chip
or
and seal.
because the water, the base, the culverts and everything's already in.
You
And
don't
that
have
bond
any-
would be held until they actually did the work.
That is correct. The bond would be held until they actually did the work and it's completed and holds up for 2 years or whatever the criteria is for each commissioner.
So you're saying we would need to eventually chip and seal?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
the
It
regs say
does.
now that, I think what the judge is proposing is that right now, it would require you to chip seal or to asphalt in order to have the plat finalized before you could
Okay.
actually start selling lot.
Correct.
With the variance that she's proposing, it would allow you to go ahead and, you've already got the bulk of the work in. It would allow you to go ahead and start selling lots and what have you, before the chip and seal or the HIMAC was done, whichever you choose to end up doing.
And
Okay.
th- And then you would do the chip and seal or asphalt later, right? To avoid having all those lumber trucks coming in and out,
Concrete, rebar,
concrete tearing everything up.
fill. In regards to that, that would be just something that we discuss with the commissioner after a certain amount of construction is complete.
And that would be,
At their
and
discretion.
that's where that's where we're trying to allow as much flexibility with the commissioner. And so by not changing our, then we're not binding one or the other one to agreements. And so that would be between you and the commissioner of that precinct.
Would we be
But we
limited
do
to a
have to
time?
chip and seal after X period of time.
Well, would it be
I just don't-
limited to a time or a
You
completion?
gotta know that to know what kind of pricing on your lots.
Exactly, we've already set on everything.
That's what we're already messed up.
We've already got options, we've got probably 2/3 of it sold on options, waiting for this.
So I would say that.
And our
that-
understanding was that we did not have to do it when we started out with this back
Yeah,
in
and
December,
so,
January.
so I would say that, that would be at the flexibility of the commissioner. And again, the same thing would have to be taken into consideration. If it's a small subdivision, well then, it would be different than if it's a larger subdivision with more mileage and more roadways,
Right, sure.
right? And so I think that would be at the discretion of the court, and of course, that's for them to decide.
Right.
If they wanna maintain that flexibility, or if we wanna tighten it up. I think that right now, and this is a personal opinion, I think that right now, we're trying to keep our subdivision regulations as fair as we can to the developer, to the taxpayer, and to the future homeowners, right, that end up living in those subdivisions. And so you maintain that it has to be chip and seal, but the timeline on that, I think, can be negotiable, and that's the way Jed interpreted it, that it could be negotiable based on the extent, I guess I should say.
What
of
about the
the
road coming to the subdivision?
That was fixing to be my point. I brought that up whenever this was voted and approved. How can we ask someone to do that when the road they're traveling to get on that chip and seal or high mac road is not hard surfaced?
Well, you would hope that that commissioner would then be motivated to include that in the rotation and try to do what they can.
Well, here's the
Right.
situation that I have that Mr. Rowe alluded to. So the road that goes from 190 and Rolling Pines up to there is not very long, and we all fight a situation where we've got limited funds. I would not want to have to chip and seal or high mac that road, because the same traffic that's going in there to build their subdivision is also having to travel down my road to get there.
Yeah, and so you wait
so-
as well. I mean, so you wait as well. So, but the thing is that we don't wanna get back into the situation where we have subdivisions like we've got all over this county, right, that are rock roads, that have now become dirt roads, that have now collapsed culverts, right? And so I understand, but I know these guys but we may not know the
Yeah,
next
the guy,
guys.
the next guy that
But
comes
the
from out
thing
of
is, when
town or
that chip and
somewhere.
seal, 10, 15 years from now, it's in worse shape than the rock roads.
And I'm
A
not,
lot more maintenance, it looks worse.
and I'm not gonna disagree with that. I'm just saying that for us to try to bring everything up to a more workable standard, right, and avoid getting back in the trap of Barney Wiggins subdivisions, right, that we maintain these, but create as much flexibility as we can for both the developers and the county, and protect the taxpayers as much as we
This is
can.
actually gonna be a private road behind a gate as well.
It's
I
a
just wanna
gated
make sure
community,
everybody's
we
clear
have,
on that.
the
So-
POA has to do all, or the developers have to do all the maintenance.
If all of those roads are private roads, then I don't know what the specific
Jed?
criteria.
Well,
Come
we
on,
had
Jed.
voted
Speak.
before.
There's it.
Yeah, we voted before that they have to be,
Yeah, we
chip
voted
and
before
seal,
that
so we
even
don't
behind the
get into
gated
that.
community that would have to be chip sealed. And that's obviously a change from Twin Creeks.
Oh, I think that was a bad
And that's a
change.
change, that's also a change from the first time I met with you on November
Right,
the
exactly.
third.
Yeah, I understand.
So,
Yeah, that's my question when I was asked about this. When the timeline started on y'all subdivision, and then when did we change our rules?
Now, you can, and again, it's up to the court, you can grandfather people that had already submitted information or that had already provided information. But I think that there comes a point where if you've done it, but at that point in time, we had not received a plat, which is what kicks it in for us.
that was what we had
That's
talked
what I was
about
talking
in
about,
the
plat.
conference call, about getting this plat submitted sooner.
Yeah.
Then you would have fell under that grandfather.
Then you would have been
Well,
grandfathered,
you-
but we had not received a plat
Yeah.
or any
Have you tried to
information.
get a surveyor in the last 6 months?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Yes, sir, we did.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I understand.
Here's another thing.
Carrie's got some.
Hold on, what you got, Carrie?
I would just say that the subdivision regulations were updated in May, but before that, it was August of 2020. So
And there's a
these
subdivision.
road regulations were in.
Okay,
August of 2020.
August of 2020, they were already in, but then we just updated.
Is it
Okay,
Right,
so,
but we didn't vote.
It's
no, yes, we did.
dirt, gravel.
August 2020, we did, and then we updated them, which is what
Wait a
you're
minute.
referencing.
No,
Not the chip and seal,
not
not
the chip and seal and
the
the
behind
hard
we didn't,
surface roads, that wasn't until later.
we didn't do that and until May, I think it was,
That was in the
behind the
update.
gated
That was included
community.
in the
That was in May,
update.
not in August.
The basic subdivision was adopted in August of
Correct.
2020.
but
and
not
then the
the-
decision on the road standards was made. of
Yes,
2021.
so that is correct. So you all are right in between.
Well, here's another thing, you talk about chip and seal up to our subdivision, we bought 291 acres to the north of that we're fixing to do, and it goes all the way to the end of Red Knoll Road. over
Will
a
it
mile.
travel that same road?
Yep, up again, it just fronts that road all the way.
It fronts, Red
Go all the
Low,
way
or
down to
it
Eugene
fronts?
Parrish's property on the right-hand side.
Right before the fork to, Miss Rout,
Miss Lowe,
Miss Lowe's
Miss
place.
Red Lowe's place.
and we.
So that wouldn't affect the road behind the gated community though?
We're doing another one.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
So-
County road
They're
from
gonna be
190 is what he's saying too.
Down at the
Y'all's
line.
next.
If you gonna put, if you chip and seal 190 up to where our roads are, we'll do it, but I mean, that's gonna cost.
well,
it's
but
over
that's
a mile.
going to,
And I've still
as you
got all the
all.
foresters coming out off of Sandyland Road, all the log trucks.
Yeah, see, so you still have loggers, and you are gonna wanna move towards chip and seal, because you're not gonna want your people that are coming in and out of your subdivision going across a county road that is not chip and seal, because they're gonna
That's right.
demand it, for
Right.
one, cause they all drive black vehicles and they don't
But
like
I'm gonna tell you, on these
white rock.
subdivisions, it turns over to POAs, and then they get a big bill on this chip and seal, because it's more, upkeep to it, more expense. And if you put a good base under a rock road and grade it once a year, that's all you gotta do. We did it for 13 years out there. at
Ye-
23.
yes, sir,
It worked out fine.
But again, you're back to who you are individually, not what the
Well,
next person's going to bring
Well,
to the table.
The specs call for putting, cement under rock, and if you do it right, there is no problem.
Yes, sir, and
But I
I'm.
mean, y'all have regulations for that.
Yes, yes, sir,
If they're
but the
followed.
thing is to try to get our subdivisions up to where the POAs can, to one degree or another, maintain or take care of them. So that's why we're trying to get away from the rock road, simply
Right.
because historically, once they start going downhill, you know, and none of us are here, we all, I mean, we can all go right all over and look at what at one time was a semi-decent at least road.
Well, I just feel like on a gated community where the POA has to pick up all the costs, that they should have a little variance on that, that the court should do that. If it's a rock road and it's put in right, it's a whole lot less cost to you know, as the years go on, to the people that live there.
Well, at this time, that was already determined, that regardless of where the road was, it would be chip and seal,
I
you know,
that's what I'm
for
saying, but
perpetuity, you
I think
know?
that should be changed.
Yeah, so that was part of it, is to avoid that type
Yeah, I
of
understand where you're coming
circumstance,
from
yeah.
on the roads.
Yeah, so, and the thing about it too that you need to realize is, okay, so Commissioner Overstreet, you know, is referencing when there's a gap there, and the same thing happens, I mean, it happens all over this county. But as those properties sell, right, then your taxes, the property taxes are going to increase as well, which is gonna go directly to fund, right, road and bridge,
Directly?
so.
Not all of it.
Well, no,
Yeah,
not
Our
all.
I think
17
I get
our 17 cents out of the
$3.5
dollar.
cent.
With it being behind a private road, behind a private gate, there'd be
No
they
expense
won't
to
get
the
any,
road.
the county won't be spending any money on that road.
No, but what I'm saying, I'm not referencing your roads, I'm referencing the gap that exists between the pavement, right, and then your road. That there is gonna be a gap in some areas where we know though,
I've
that needs to be filled. So as properties, as taxes are brought in, property taxes because of the structures that you guys are bringing in,
Greg
well,
gets the
then,
figure on
that's
that.
gonna increase funding
Right.
to the county, right, which then increases funding to the commissioners as well.
We
And
figure a conservative $200,000 a year is what's gonna happen.
Okay,
For-
see,
For the county.
correct, and so what will happen is that then as their budgets are able to increase, then some of those gaps will also get filled, so that there's a continuity of blacktop, you know, from blacktop to your subdivision, from blacktop to blacktop, instead of having these gaps that occur.
But the one thing I've got, just like where y'all are buying timberland, pretty much. It's coming off tax road, I understand all that that's going on. But there's still timberland behind that.
That's exactly where I was going.
There's still timberland behind that, and Jed's the engineer, you can go in there and soil cement a road, we've done it all throughout this county, soil cement a road, chip and seal it, and the first thing that happens, they move 6 logging contractors, or a dirt pit opens up on that road, and it falls all to pieces, so I'm focusing all my money on that particular road, because the state of Texas can't build a farm road that'll hold up log trucks, oil trucks,
Right.
and all that, that's where I'm going.
Okay, so you have the flexibility though, of if the county is better served, because you still have log trucks coming in and out, then you keep it as a rock road. And that's the flexibility you're allowing
But they
them.
don't get,
But that's what I'm saying,
so,
but then we have to chip and
We
seal
get
and come
the
out
but
with-
now
variance,
you're
but they
saying
don't
you have
get
to
the
chip and
variance.
seal it.
No, you're giving them the flexibility that while they are still moving heavy equipment, or they are still.
I'm talking about beyond when they build theirs. When theirs is built out, and there's still 10,000 acres of timber to be harvested back here, or 4 oil wells that they're pulling salt water off of that's using that road every day. That's the problem we run out there into now.
So a prime example
And
that
this
Mr.
gives
Rowe,
them flexibility.
a prime example that Mr. Rowe brought up earlier, they developed Twin Creeks. It's an awesome subdivision.
Yeah.
It's pretty back in there. It's beautiful. It's one of the bright spots of Polk County. And I went in there and put an improved gravel road on there. However, when you go past Twin Creeks subdivision, there's probably 10,000, 15, 20,000 acres of timberland past
Yeah,
it.
more than that.
Okay?
More, from there to 287.
Exactly, from there to Groveton. And so, anyway, we've put an improved road on it, but if I had to go in there and chip seal that thing, it wouldn't last any time.
And that's why,
our point
that's why
about
we're giving
subdivision.
them this, that's why I'm saying, you give them the same flexibility that you have. That
That's all we ask for.
until all that logging, all that clearing, all of that has happened, that the
It's not
roads
gonna
stay
end.
as rock roads.
It's not gonna end, that's my point.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like
not
you're
gonna
saying,
end.
it's never gonna end. We're in the
We never
timber
have
belt.
chip and seal.
Huh? It's never gonna end.
We may always have that very.
That's all where, at Ronnie, when, on Twin Creeks, he rocked that road and it's really nice, exactly like our road.
And he can fix it.
And it works good. He grades it, the roads are great, our roads are great, and nobody's complaining. I've been to every one of the POA meetings, the roads have never been brought up to Rock Road. Everybody's satisfied with it. That's my point. So my chip and seal it and end up with more cost for the POA. It don't cost me nothing.
Well, and we don't, and part of it is that we don't want the destruction to occur to where then the developer has to spend money 2 or 3 times, you
Which
know.
I
on
had a
the-
subdivision that happened in Four
Yes,
Corners.
yes.
They ended up,
Where
they
you-
built those roads, they went in there, sold it out, built it out, and they ended up having to redo the roads all over.
Yes,
Did
and-
the county have to pay for it the last time?
No, the
No.
last ones that they did, we wouldn't take the roads over until they went in there and made the
Yeah.
necessary repairs.
The front ditch.
What about the front addition though?
The front addition that we'd had to end up.
You had, the county
Yeah,
paid
we
for
ended up
that.
having to redo that.
More burden than if it was rock. I mean,
Had it been wrong?
it wouldn't have cost near as much.
Well, they had already asphalted it.
Right.
They had already asphalted it, but that when they approached me about taking over that section back there by the park, I told them that I couldn't take it over until it was brought back up to county standards.
And that would be.
And they spent a lot of money bringing it back up to county standards before we took the road back over.
Well, I'm just saying, the court, y'all have a variance, there's no question about that. And it just makes common sense, just like we're talking about. You got a rock road to our place, and we do that 291 acres, that's over a mile up there, that you would have to, to chip and seal, and all those log trucks coming out, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, just common sense says, we can put a rock road, just like we did Twin Creeks.
Yeah, it would cost me my entire budget for 1 year
Yeah,
to
that's
chip
what-
seal to
I
Twin
know,
Creeks.
it's just, I mean, it
And that
just
leaves
makes
the rest of
more
my
sense.
taxpayers
I
with
mean,
nothing.
I know some of these regulations, we got this from our attorneys, but I see a lot of stuff in there, and I addressed this whenever we voted on this. That's fine if you've got asphalt roads throughout your county.
Yeah.
We don't have that. And we're going, and just like, I've got one right now that's wanting to do that. Well, why am I having to chip and seal or asphalt this road when we're driving down a dirt road to turn off on my road?
Okay, so what is?
Or rock road, let me rephrase that.
Okay, so what is your expectation? I guess the court needs to decide this, not me. I'm just telling you what the agreement was and what the recommendation is from our engineers. So what is the expectation? Is your expectation that you're never gonna chip and seal and fill those gaps?
At $150,000 a mile, with my budget, I couldn't guarantee that I could do 2 gaps.
Okay, but.
Just like Ronnie's saying,
But
it'll take his budget to asphalt from
Yeah, that one
the
road, yeah.
3126,
And not only the building of it, plus the maintenance.
the maintenance of the chip and
No,
seal,
absolutely.
every 5 to 7 years.
Polk County is timberlands, that's our main industry.
Yes,
The log
sir.
trucks are everywhere, and it just won't hold up. I mean, I think it's better to keep a rock road with a real good base under it, and especially in these subdivisions.
So who's gonna enforce that?
Enforce what?
Can I address that?
Yes, sir, please
One
do.
thing
Judge.
we haven't mentioned this morning, and I'm a little bit concerned about the commissioner giving the flexibility to delay some of the construction. I agree that once certain improvements are made, whether it's water line, road base, ditches, drainage, in order to file the subdivision and not require a construction bond for them, they need to be formally accepted by the county. Those improvements that are done at the time
That's fair.
of filing the subdivision.
So the plat would be approved?
So the plat would be approved with, in place would be a maintenance bond for 2 years, according to our subdivision regulations. A 2-year maintenance bond for everything that has been formally accepted by the county and placed into service. A 2-year maintenance bond would begin for that. In the way the regulations are written, at the time of filing the subdivision, nothing is constructed. So in that case, you would have a construction bond, which basically guarantees that construction will be done within 2 years. You have a construction bond for that. So where would be the commissioner's recommendation is that we accept the improvements that are done, get the 2-year maintenance bond started for that at the time of filing the plat. and then a construction bond for the outstanding work. So that's, you asked who's
So there
gonna
would be
maintain
two,
it.
so you're saying there would be two bonds?
There'd be two bonds. According to our current regulations, it's a 2-year construction bond. So from the time of filing the subdivision plat, they have 2 years to get the construction done. Formerly, that construction was done between the preliminary plat and the final plat. Basically said, yes, this looks good, go ahead and build it. You can be assured that if you build it, we'll, in accordance with the plans and specifications, we'll finalize it and sell, be able to sell the lot. But with the new regulations, we did away with the preliminary plat procedure.
We were required to do away with the
Because
preliminary
of
by
time.
the state.
Yes, ma'am.
By the
That's
state,
correct.
by the legislature. They told us we had to do away with that and no longer allowed that flexibility for the counties.
Yeah, cause there's a time frame. I don't understand the time frame we have to meet nowadays. If they
30
come in here,
days.
we got 30 days to do it.
30 days now.
Right, and that's not enough time.
But
to get
that's
all the
not us,
construction
that's
done.
legislation, that's the state law now.
That's new statute, so
Yeah.
we had no, and we fought it. Furthermore, we fought that, and we said, that's not fair to the developers, it's not fair to small counties, you don't even have time to breathe. And actually, it's even stricter than that, you have 30 days, but if it sits on a commissioner's desk for 10 days, boom, it's approved, as it is, no
We can't
questions
even get
asked.
surveyors in 6
You
months.
can't even get a surveyor in, you're back to the same thing.
So on the,
They can basically do what they want to if you skip those time
That is
frames.
correct, and we can't take a chance with that.
No.
We don't need some of the subdivisions that
So-
our surrounding counties have ended up with.
right. So going back to what you were saying earlier about the two bonds. So, if we broke it out into two and there was the maintenance bond,
Right.
what would the maintenance bond be based off of and the
The
amount?
maintenance bond, per the regulations, is for everything that has been accepted in the full amount of the cost of those improvements. That's what the regulations
As if,
stipulate.
as if the entire work and development that we've done would be
That's
totally
been done.
wiped out and have to be redone.
You have a maintenance bond
Oh,
on
my,
that.
that's ridiculous.
That's how it's currently written.
That is ridiculous.
To require that. So, where the court would get
But the work is already
flexibility-
done. That's the problem that I have with it.
And what the maintenance bond is to make sure that you have 2 years. A maintenance bond typically, as we see it in our work, is normally 12 months. But that's not a whole lot of time for latent defects to show up. And the purpose of the maintenance bond is if you have a soft spot shows up, you have some groundwater show up, anything that's latent that wasn't seen when you went out and inspected and said, yes, we'll accept this. It has 24 months to show up. During that time, the developer is responsible for correcting that deficiency.
But that would cost the whole price of the whole road to fix one hole. That don't make sense. Or one culvert blowout, that does not make sense.
I think there's a pattern behind the work that is done by contractors. Usually when you get a construction contractor, they come in with a surety bond, which guarantees that, it basically says, we're gonna do this work. And if they start doing it and go broke or leave town or whatever, y'all have the flexibility to go against their bond and complete that work. But usually those.
But our work's done.
construction- But those construction bonds that are done by contractor are usually teamed up with a maintenance bond. Once you buy your construction bond as a contractor, you have built into it a maintenance period after that. So if defects show up during that maintenance period, then you can still go against.
But that wouldn't be the case here.
In the case here where a developer is not the contractor, doesn't hire a contractor to do it, the way it's patterned, the way it's shown in our subdivision ordinance is that the maintenance bond is the full amount of the improvements that have been accepted. So where the flexibility that you're talking about doing it, per my recommendation, would be instead of keeping all of the construction in one pile covered under one bond, and then all the maintenance, after that one is over and the 24 months maintenance period starts, everything stays together. Instead of doing that, you would break it up, saying basically, we're not gonna require a construction bond for what you've already built. Instead, we will formally accept it, you've looked at it, you're happy with everything that's there, and the court accepts it, but they would still be required to have a construction bond for the work that has not been completed.
Or a
So
letter of
it's a
credit,
little-
I would ask for it.
Um,
That's
or a
all.
letter of credit, right?
Or a letter of surety, and
Okay.
it could be a bond, a letter of credit, or cash
Okay.
in lieu of
Either way.
Either way.
We have no problem with that, nobody can give us an amount.
Well, that amount is based upon your engineer's estimate of construction costs, which we have, y'all provided that, Mr. Fairbanks, we gave that to us.
So is it a percentage of that cost or the full,
It's, according to our regulations, it's 100%.
That's ridiculous. Totally, there's no way that if something goes wrong, we gotta rebuild everything out there, that doesn't make sense.
No,
I would think it ought to be 10% or 20% of that.
He said it's 100% of the cost of what's yet to be constructed, which in our case would be the chip and seal, 85,000.
For the construction bond.
Yep.
But at the
That's not about
time
the
that you
maintenance.
do the construction bond for that, to finalize your plat, you also, in order to go forward with the parts that have been built, you need to get started the maintenance bond.
So
Now,
that'd
that might
be
be
two separate
something-
things.
But it wouldn't be
Right.
likely that the whole thing would go bad.
That's what I'm saying.
You're right.
I mean, it's not, and if that, you know, we probably got other things to worry about.
Yes, sir.
If the whole thing goes
I
bad.
Okay.
compare it to what we do in our project. We usually hold 10% at the end of the project, at
Yeah, that's-
10%
yeah.
retaining
That's
to
reasonable.
make sure all the loose ends.
So
are
couldn't it be
cleaned up,
10% on the
so-
maintenance as well?
If y'all would like to, yes, sir. But we would need to change the regulations. If y'all wanted to, well, I think you need to change the regulations to do that, because what y'all do for them.
Yeah, we need to make sure
No,
we
yeah.
apply equally.
Yeah, but we wanna do that. It's just, we've got some different
wanna be
things in our
consistent.
counties and other counties where they're grabbing pieces of these regulations that don't fit us.
That's right, that's exactly.
That's what-
Okay,
that's my
so-
point.
So can we modify then, let's go ahead and change the regs, and can we modify the regs and make the maintenance bond be a portion of, instead of a 100% blanketed amount?
It could just be
I think
decided
that
by
would
the
be a
court
good
each
idea.
time.
A portion of what is completed
A portion of what you're putting into maintenance, that's correct. Yes, sir.
could possibly put into maintenance.
This is not something that we expect the county to maintain, in all honesty. This is
No,
not-
we know that.
understand that.
No, we
Yeah, no,
understand
yeah,
that.
no.
Y'all trying to protect the people. we
Yeah, we're
understand
trying to
that.
protect
Yeah, the people that would buy the
taxpayers.
property and move in.
Yeah.
If y'all, you know, we're not all gonna be on this earth forever, and when y'all three are gone, who's gonna take care of it then? Who's to say that it's gonna be took care of then?
Right, and some
And that's what,
developers
that's
are
the problem
good.
we've run
I
into.
understand.
Although
Yeah.
we have
Those
30-foot
subdivisions, I know what
easements,
y'all got hung up on those.
back in the day, we got subdivisions all over the place. I got a 30-foot right of way. And they expect me to maintain a road with 2 cars parked in the road.
Yeah.
You know, that's the stuff we're trying to get away with, and everybody gets focused on the rocking and the topping and all that kind of stuff.
But you know, these regulations, have you read all 96 pages of this?
They tough. But, on the flip side, if you don't have them, what would we have,
I
Bub?
agree.
Right,
I
and
think-
that's-
I think
You
the
know
court-
exactly what I'm
we
talking about.
All I'm
sometimes-
saying is, this is all right, the court should do more variances on each individual deal, is what I'm saying. Y'all
Well,
got the authority. to do
the
Okay,
problem with
so
variances, though,
we'll
if you
let-
do it for one, you do it for
we'll
all.
let
Well,
solve,
if
yeah,
the
so we
case
need
needs
to be,
You can do it for all.
we
If
need
the
to be
case
as
needs to be.
consistent as possible. So if we go to the maintenance bond being a portion of, but not the entire amount. Okay, that solves one issue, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Or letter of credit.
or a
Yeah,
letter of
which one would
credit,
be a letter of
yes,
credit?
whatever it might be. So, Jed, so what's a fair amount on that?
I would say, we typically do 10% as we
Okay.
close out a project, hold 10%. I think above 15 is probably getting out there, I think.
Everything's been a 10% on everything we've done in the county and in the past in my business. I mean, it's 10% retainage is what it is.
Okay, so let's modify then, those subdivision regs to change that.
The other question would be this, in the body of our subdivision ordinance, of course, our ordinance or regulation is broken into 2 parts. It's the first part that we've gone over with a pretty good fine tooth comb. The second part is it adds by inclusion the Texas Water Development Board's standard regulations. We call for, we basically give them 2 years to build the improvements, and then require a 2-year maintenance bond. The sample surety agreement provided by the Water Development Board provides in there, of course, we're allowed to change that, modify it to suit ourselves, but it provides for a 3-year construction period and a 1-year maintenance bond. And I think my question for the court would be, do y'all wanna consider changing from 2 and 2 to a 3 and 1?
Does it have to be one or the other?
Yes, ma'am, we need to spell it out, and I think we need to either modify our sample security agreement as provided by the Water Development Board to match the 2 years construction period and 2-year maintenance, or we need to modify our regulations to provide for a 3-year construction period and a 1-year.
Well, let's ask
So-
let's ask these gentlemen while they're here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so that would allow, the developers to, 3 years on the,
To build it,
to construct what is left to be constructed?
yes, sir,
And then once that is done, there would be just a 1-year maintenance?
just a 1-year maintenance. We'll do any combination you want to. Right now, we have provisions to extend that 24 months if we want to. If y'all come to us and say, look, we're still finishing up, we need another,
Well,
90 days.
the plus
another
side to it being
6
longer
months, we can
is
extend it.
that some subdivisions may have 10 lots in it, and another subdivision may have 200 lots in it. Well, obviously, if it's got 200 lots in it, it's gonna take it longer to build out. So it's good to have the flexibility to be able to go a little longer.
Okay, so if you go 3 and 1, okay, but then, because we're already saying also that, let's say they come to you and they say, you know, we had COVID delays, or we had weather delays, and we can't, the 3 years is not adequate enough. We're already saying that the commissioner can grant them flexibility and say, well, let's tack on another year, another 6 months, or whatever the
Would
developer
that be
says they
something
need.
that would also have to come back to the court for that variance?
According to our regulations.
Yes, it would have to come back to the court. But nevertheless, if you go with 3 and 1, and I don't know, I'm not a developer, that's why I'm saying let's ask them. If you do 3 and 1, if that's better for the developers and creates greater flexibility all the way around, not just for the developers, but for the county as well, then
And the 3 years would also allow more time for any imperfections to show up,
that's right.
if there was gonna be any.
Well, I think you're saying it could take up to 3 years, but in our case, obviously, the construction was done lots quicker. But from our perspective, I think only a 1-year maintenance letter of credit or bond helps us, because it only holds up the money.
Holds up your money for a shorter
12 months
period.
instead of 24 months,
Yes, sir.
but.
Well, then I think maybe the court needs to consider that. Maybe we need to, we
But
wanna
now the-
stay
but
in
now the-
compliance.
But now the 1 year that he's talking about would be on the end of the 3-year.
Correct.
So it's still the same as,
No, sir, no, sir. It
On the end
would-
of a construction
It would
completion.
start when you accept the improvements and let the.
and that's
construction bond
once
go.
the plat is approved?
No, sir.
No.
Our regulations assume that the plat is approved up front with a full construction bond for all of the construction. So that even before they start construction, they can begin selling lots. Now, the developer or the folks who will be buying the lots will need to look at this and say, look, for the county's regulations, I've gotta build these improvements within 2 years or 3 years.
I don't think that's a good idea. What if the guy goes broke?
Sure.
We
If he goes broke.
What if somebody,
Sure.
what if somebody went in
We
there?
don't want that.
Right.
We don't want that.
What if somebody went in there and bought a lot and they just did it as an investment and they didn't, build on it? They held on to
Why
it
would
for a while?
Yeah, why would anybody have to build on it?
Oh, we're talking about the lots now.
Yeah,
These bonds are independent of the lots.
okay, so
From
we're
the-
just talking about the developers.
Just
Okay, that's
the
what
public
threw me. I thought,
infrastructure.
whoa, how are we
Okay.
gonna tell someone you gotta
We
build your
went
house
from the
now?
water board to where we're at now, we kinda,
Okay, so
I
with
feel
the
like I've
water
been
board, let's go
waterboarded.
back to the water
yeah,
board.
let's go back to the water
We
board
kinda
and
went
start
down a
over.
rabbit trail here. Okay, so let's go back to the water board. So what are the pros and cons of the 3 to 1 versus 2 and 2?
I like how we have the 2-year right now with the provisions that as a county in response to a request from the developer, that we can extend that. At I think it's 6-month increments, we can extend it. I like the 2 years. From a person who's out there gonna buy lots, if I'm buying a lot in a subdivision that nothing's been done in yet, I'd sure be more inclined to buy one that they've got 2 years to build it than they got 3 years.
3 years.
So I like the 2 years as we got in the body of our regulations. But I don't have a problem with going with a 12-month warranty period.
2 and 1.
That's standard for our industry.
So you're saying 2 to 1?
2 and 1.
So it doesn't tie up their money as quick, as long?
Correct.
Yes, sir, and 2 years is a long maintenance period. It's unusual.
And there'll be a lot of work
We-
done in there in 2 years, so you're gonna find those bad spots quick,
Yeah.
if there is any.
I think so, right. But, that's up to the court. Y'all wanna keep the 2 and 2, we can do that. If we do, I would recommend we modify our sample
Okay,
document.
but that's also on the
for them to
predication
use.
that we are still gonna require them to do the chip and seal or high mac, correct?
Yep.
Okay, if we develop, are y'all gonna put chip and seal road all the way to it?
Well, hopefully we will be able to.
They won't be able to.
Well,
Mr. Rowe,
yeah,
I
we're gonna
can't,
have-
Mr.
we're-
Rowe,
we can't
I'm
make
not
any
going out
promises
there.
like that.
That
I
makes
can't
sense for
either.
us to chip
I'm
and
not
seal
going there,
road,
Mr. Rowe, I
and
can't,
then-
I can't guarantee you that.
Yeah, we can't guarantee that. None of us can.
But then we have to do it. That doesn't make sense.
Well, because of the subdivision, because that's a subdivision over which we will have no control over what kind of maintenance occurs. And again, when all of us are gone, what is it gonna look like?
Just like it does when we put it in.
Well, yeah, because it's you. But that's not necessarily true about the next group that comes
Well, I
along.
think that y'all have a variance on everything. If there's a rock road going to this, and he looks at our road and says, or the engineer looks at it and says, that road's fine, I think it should be left rock.
Cause it is engineered.
Everything's done exactly right.
But it's not only right this instant. It's in 15, 20 years, what's it going to look like?
Better
When-
than a chip and seal road, I
Mhm.
guarantee.
Well, exactly.
Ask your commissioners that.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So eventually it's gonna get there. So the point is that in terms of protecting the purchasers, okay, so again, you have, let's take all the personalities out of it,
Right.
okay? Let's take all the personalities out of it. And so we have someone that shows up from the Houston area, okay, and they say, oh, no, I'm gonna do this and this is what I'm gonna do, and, but then they don't. So then we have no recourse.
Well,
In 5 or 10 years.
If you do a variance on it, you do, because then you've got commissioners or engineers to go check the road.
Yeah.
If the
Yes,
road
but-
looks like it's gonna hold up, they say, okay. If they don't, they say, we can't do it.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to remain consistent regardless of
That is
whether or not the
consistent.
developer's coming from Houston or the developers are
That would be
right
consistent.
here. So-
You're saying basically let it be the commissioner's call to offer a variance or not.
I mean, if you go in there and you do like you done this road and you stabilize, you stabilize the sub base,
Yes.
you make sure all that's done, and then you do the compacted, whatever you put on top of it, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I would probably accept a variance on there if it's turning off a dirt road
Yes.
or a rock
That's all
road,
we're saying.
or the same kind of road we build is what y'all are building.
I'm not talking bad about the county.
Well, we don't, you know. I've got 310 mile of them, and y'all got how many miles?
One.
Tommy,
One, so, you know.
you teed
But I
that up.
Ronnie has done a real good job on the stuff I've been around.
Well, I'm just saying though, that if you go in there and you build it to those specs, I'm telling you, I don't like the chip and seal on the road going to y'all's stuff, because just like we talked earlier, it's not gonna last.
Yeah, it's bad at best. And what if we went back to, would the court consider going back to where we were before, to where if it was something that was behind a gated community, that we didn't require them to be,
That's up to the court. That's
that
not
we
up
would
to
not
me.
require them to be chip and seal? That's how it was before, and that was the reason why we were allowed to do
13
anything,
years allowed
right,
subdivision
with Twin
road
Creeks,
fine.
we didn't.
I accept that motion.
That
Second?
that is not up to me. That is up to the court.
And it's on the plat that the county will not accept those roads.
That is correct.
And it would be on the plat.
And it'd be on the plat, like they
They could never accept those, right?
Yeah, it's stated in every deed of trust, And plus,
Okay.
we tell the people up front, this is not gonna be chip and seal.
So
And
let
they
me
always
make this
said-
very clear.
And
Let
they
me
buy
make
it
this-
accordingly.
Let me make this very clear. The one group of people that we constantly get hammered by are people that live in subdivisions that are exactly what you're describing, that were built several years ago. Okay,
they're
so
not
those are,
behind gated
and they,
communities.
and
Just several
they,
years ago is the difference.
that, and I understand that, and the developer is a difference.
Yeah.
And so I understand that, but my point is, the number one complaint, the number one group of people that we cannot provide services to, we have subdivisions that we cannot even get ambulances, fire trucks, and law enforcement in there. Guess what those are? Private subdivisions.
We'll take care of that,
Okay.
we'll be sure
That's
that's.
because of a
But-
defunct property owners association is what that is, and the majority of
Right,
all.
No,
but
that's
no, but-
property
but
owners
Judge,
associate $10 a year.
That's
for-
one, but that's,
Okay.
they're
But-
property owners.
But back in the day when I think we all have
Yeah.
subdivisions within our precincts that are not as desirable as we would like them to be. But back when those subdivisions were built, we didn't have the model rules and regulations.
Right.
So even though we have a gated community and we would not require them to have chip and seal or HIMAC behind them, they still have to build the subdivision
exactly.
to our engineered specs.
Right.
So it's only the road that would be, the topping on the road would be the only difference.
Right.
The drainage, the road itself, and, the water and, adequate
base.
sewer, all of that stuff has to be built like it needs to be built. It would only be
And
the
that-
chip and seal or the
that-
HIMAC that is the
They cannot
difference.
do it, but if the county
That
put a
is
base in it like
entirely
that, you
up-
wouldn't have to chip and
you know,
seal.
It goes
up to
back
the
to what
commission.
Tommy said a while ago about having a 30-foot easement. You're trying to have a road and 2 ditches within a 30-foot easement.
And
It
a car,
is-
2 cars parked in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the model rules and regulations do away with that. We don't have that problem.
Yeah, we don't have that anymore.
So the only difference would just be a matter of, everything that you were alluding to, I think, was, that is taken care of with the model rules and regulations. The chip and seal and the HIMAC is the only thing that could be different.
That's exactly right.
That is entirely up to the court.
I mean, I think that would be a plus for y'all and for the landowners.
And if we had it like proposed earlier, where it had to be a gate, if it's not a gated community, they still gotta do the chip and seal or the HIMAC. If it's a
Right.
gated community, they do the chip and seal. No?
It's not up to me.
I don't, I don't think it has to be a gated community. I think if I've got a road out there, and they go 3 miles down it, and they turn off and build a road.
So
I'll make
minimum
that-
would need to be the gravel.
What they're doing now, the soil cement,
Base.
the base stabilization, and then ever how many inches of base on top of it that's stabilized.
So if you look at
Tommy,
it that way,
It's not that much difference in building a gated community, it's the gate, you know, $12,000.
The gate, that's what I'm saying, the gate, I mean, that's not any different. You
Except
can't,
They do
you-
we do the maintenance.
y'all do the maintenance on it, that's what I'm saying though.
and then y'all also have an HOA or a POA, correct?
We
And like
will
at
have
Twin
one.
Creeks.
And if
And
it's
you will
building
have
out-
at Rolling Pines also. So those people could choose
Do
to,
whatever if they want to chip and seal it, that's fine.
then those people could do that.
But
Yeah, I
at
told-
Twin Creeks, after 13 years, they've never even mentioned chip and seal, they like the road just like it is.
And a lot of people know what happened in Four Corners, they're not gonna wanna chip and seal it for who knows how long, because every dump.
In the
truck,
short
every
term, you can
cement
blade
truck,
one quicker than you
they will
can,
not.
It's just gonna make-
asphalt, and it's a lot less expensive, I
think chip
will
and
say
seal is
that.
way overrated. It's good for about a year or two.
So by doing that, we would leave it up to the taxpayer to decide what they wanted to do.
And they understand that going in, so if they don't like it, they don't buy that lot.
Right,
So, I mean,
the landowners, if they say, I don't like the rock road, they don't buy it, you know, everything's up front.
I do think that you're gonna need to have something that separates that property, like you originally said, about having a gate or something that delineates it as being a private area. You know, let me play devil's advocate. We've all been riding down dirt roads before
Sure.
in the middle of the night, right? And so then you're gonna get into what's private property, what's public roadway, because.
But the gate determines that.
That's
Yeah.
my point. And so my
And
point is
and
that
plus
it-
the maintenance, the cost of the maintenance.
that's right, then it becomes very clear where the cost of the maintenance begins and ends, and it delineates.
I don't think anybody would have a problem making a gated community if that's what they decided to do, Tommy. It's just not that much difference as cost.
Well, you're building the same road.
Exactly.
You're building the same road, you got the same, you got the same everything, the right of way and everything, whether it's gated or not, or if they come out and they wanna build one off Rich,
Well, what about the
same
maintenance?
thing. The maintenance, 2 years, well, we're not gonna accept it for 2 years anyway.
Well,
And if
Well, we
it comes in,
can't
if it comes
You
in the.
can't accept it.
If it's
That's
behind
the
a gated
point.
if you-
community, we can't
No, you
accept it
can't.
I'm not
anyway.
saying, I'm saying if they come, if a developer chooses not to have a gated community, intends for the county to take it over, if he goes in there and builds it, he stabilizes subgrade and he puts the right rock on top of it,
It's-
take it over.
Yeah.
In a period of 2 years,
Well,
because
no,
you're
wait a
gonna
minute,
make
wait a
him,
minute,
you're gonna
wait a
make him put it in
minute.
good shape.
No,
Wait a minute, that's not,
now
that's
that's a whole
not,
different
yeah,
ballgame.
so,
That's a whole different ballgame.
so in order, it's my understanding.
How's it a different
Oh,
ballgame?
hold up, Tommy. Somebody throw some water on here. So, no,
She's got a bottle.
no, what I'm
Throw it.
saying,
Throw it.
what I'm
Throw it
saying
back.
is, in order, okay, for instance, like out in precinct 2, in order for me to take over a road, the road has to be brought up to state or county standards.
That is correct.
Okay, so in order for that to happen, that road has to be chip sealed or high mac'd. So we're not gonna be able to go in there and take over that gravel road unless it is that way, unless we change it, cause that's the way it is.
I'd like to see that changed. I voiced my opinion on that when we come up with this the first time.
No, you're backing way up now, Tommy.
No, I'm not backing way up. The last time when we voted on this stuff in May, I voiced my opinion on me, a developer, having to drive down a dirt road and then put a hard surface on top of the road he built.
Yes, sir, you did.
Because the law says we can't require them to build anything greater than we build.
Yes, sir, that is
Well,
correct.
we build
did.
both, I mean, we
We
build.
build both. That's what I'm saying. We build both.
Let me jump back to the county accepting it. Even though it's a public road and you're doing this in the interest of future property owners in the county, you still have to accept that road to close that construction bond, even if it's a private road. And you still, according to our requirements, you still require a maintenance bond on that private road. So.
Okay, but not accepting it for,
To look out for the interest of the property
that
owners.
didn't sound right.
But you don't.
That didn't sound right. Okay, from a commissioner standpoint, based on what you just said, you said that we have to accept the road, but not for we don't have to accept it for maintenance.
That's correct.
Okay.
You're doing a final inspection of the road.
You're
Yes,
just
okay.
accepting
We
that,
can-
Okay.
we can
We're
release
finalizing the
construction
bond.
And
Okay.
start the maintenance.
Yeah,
you're
okay.
just accepting that the
Gotta be careful
construction
how
is
you word
correct
that.
and accurate.
You're not accepting it for
But you're not
maintenance.
accepting the maintenance.
And,
Right.
and the plat says that on a private road. It says you will never accept it for maintenance.
Yeah, we do it on the deed of trust also, when we sell the property.
Okay. So even if they HOA said, hey, we wanna tear this gate down and we wanna bring this road into the county MSAG, they could not do it.
That's correct. Unless they chip and seal it.
No, cannot do
Nope.
it, period.
Oh, they cannot do it, period.
Period.
Now, they could chip and seal or high mac the road themselves if they wanted to, just for their own use, but they would also be required for the upkeep of that chip and seal and that high mac.
Or whatever.
And they can get their commissioner to help them in whatever form or fashion, but not accept it.
I can't help them behind the gated
Can't
community.
help them behind that gate.
I cannot go
Even if
behind the
they take
gated
that gate down,
community.
it's a private road.
I can only go behind a gated community for 72 hours after an
In an
emergency.
emergency.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to be very clear about. It's not what they do.
Yeah, we set everything up front to everybody we can about it.
Okay, so do we want to get Jed to summarize some of this discussion? We'll put it back on the agenda to review and look at the.
I think we need to, because we've got a developer that is waiting on our decision so that they can move on.
Well, then let's get it on the next court agenda. And in the meantime, we will send, any modifications or changes. If you think of anything else, then send it to us, send it to Carrie. And we'll get
So-
Jed to,
So because we already voted, I guess, in May, to have it to where all roads had to be chip sealed or high mac, do we need to put it on there to possibly have that
Anything,
Rescind
any
it.
modifications or things that you wish to rescind, you
You
know,
got
that
that,
you wish
Ms.
to
Terry?
change, please get them to Carrie so that we can put it on the agenda for the court's consideration.
Do I need to send you
Next
something
time.
in writing, or?
Yes,
That would be very helpful.
yes, everything needs to be in writing.
Okay.
We don't know anything about roads.
I could just do it.
So what are we in the meantime, where should we propose changes regarding the chip and seal or minimum?
Well, I think
wearing
that we're
surface?
gonna have to gather that information. For one, Commissioner Purvis isn't here, so we need to be
Yeah.
able to give him an opportunity. We need to gather the information from everybody, and then we will forward you what we receive, because we also still need to make sure that we stay within our statutory responsibilities, that we, you see what I'm saying, it's always a balancing act, right? Cause now we've received the information obviously from them.
2-year,
and,
1 year.
That, I did write down that the 2-year, 1 year was one of them, and that just a partial maintenance bond or letter of credit was another one. But if everyone will just send us the information, then,
Well,
Can you
Judge,
get us
will we
the-
know when our next meeting, how much, our letter of, whatever it is, the letter of credit we need to have?
well, I think that probably needs to be, since that'll be one of the things considered, right? Is,
I mean, will we know before then though, because we'll have it if we do?
no, because it will
Well, I-
have to be approved and voted on by the
It's
court.
already-
Okay.
That way, whatever we have.
Yeah, I think we already have that
That
for
sounds
them.
great, thank
We
you.
do have the construction bill,
Yeah, we already have that,
and
right?
10% of that. would
I
be
have
letter of
one,
credit.
and I'll coordinate with their engineer about getting. a
Yeah,
partial
that
one.
number should already be determined
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
through,
Got
Mr.
everything,
Fairbanks.
got all the figures.
So let me ask y'all this, and this was part of my recommendation too, regarding the partial bond. I'd recommended we keep it in one lump sum, you know, maintenance bond, the construction bond, keeping all the construction together. And stop, the day it stops, the maintenance bond of all your projects starts. So what I would recommend that the court consider is on a case-by-case basis, grant exception to a partial release of the construction bonds. In this case, you would only require, and this would be an exception that you grant just for this subdivision. And I guess the reason I'm recommending not detailing all this out in our subdivision regulations is because we're trying to keep this regulations simple. But what I would recommend to the court is that you be receptive to the idea of a partial acceptance and do that on a waiver or an exception type basis. So that, in their case, you're just requiring a construction bond on the chip and seal. And then, at the same time.
Which
that
may
you
go
away.
accept-
Wait a minute, time
Make
out,
it
time out.
Yeah.
We gotta determine if that's even gonna be a requirement.
Right.
Cause we just got through talking about it possibly not being a requirement.
But you may have a developer comes in and says, look, we're gonna, the water company is going to have their own contractor install the water line. And they're gonna have their contractor provide a construction bond on it and a maintenance bond on it. So can y'all waive that for me, so that I don't have to, as the developer, bond that portion of the work? And I think y'all would make a case-by-case exception on that.
But how do we have any teeth in the game over their contractor?
That would come in the
Does
form
their contractor have
of-
to come to us?
That would become in the form of what the, water purveyor says that they will do in their response to this subdivision. In other words, the water purveyor says, and they've got certain responsibility they've gotta meet too, but, they said, we will take care of getting water to them, or upgrading their line or whatever, we'll take care of it. We'll have a contractor do it, we'll require him to have a bond, and I think in that case, you would release the developer from their bonding requirements for that water line.
So.
Because you have a commitment from the water company.
Yeah, but who
So,
has,
but then you're getting awfully far up into the developer's business to one degree or the other. What if then you end up crosswise with their water developer?
I think what you do in this leave the regulations like they are. And if the developer comes to you and says, here's my situation, this is built or somebody else is clearly taking care of it, will you allow me not to provide a bond for that portion? I think you consider it when requested, but as of now, we keep it clean as far as our regulations go. And just be receptive to if the developer
Yeah, but
requests an exception.
How does that give us control to make sure that the water department does a good job of getting the water in there?
It doesn't.
If they don't do a good job, that's their problem, they've got it. If they're having their contractor build.
That doesn't set us up for a lawsuit though?
Yep,
That sets us up, that
puts the
could possibly,
liability on
that could
him
probably set us up
and
for a
takes it off
lawsuit.
of them.
What do you think about that one?
I think anybody can sue anybody. at any
Well, I
time.
get that, but we wanna at least cut the
But,
percentage down.
Yes, sir.
I think the agreement needs to be between the county and the developer.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
whoever the developer subcontracts with, has agreements with, that's on them.
Yeah, cause then we can hold the developer's feet to the
Because
fire rather than having
We
to
don't
go-
need to be in the development business.
Yeah,
Correct.
So as much as possible, the
Let's-
agreement needs to be between
The
those
co-
two groups.
yeah, the court and the developer.
And as long as we're following, water district regulations, TCEQ, EPA, all those other acronym entities that the state law says we must follow. And that will be on us, right, to ensure that we're following statutes, regulations, and legislation as it occurs. Cause some of that's changed just then and now.
I think you will see instances though that the developer has some of the work done
Sure,
prior to finalizing that plat.
No-
And in
no
that
doubt.
case, you as a court, with a recommendation of the commissioner, would say, we're not gonna require a construction bond for that part that is done in accordance with and that we're hereby accepting.
Which is in essence what we're saying we would do with them.
Right, and just handle it
No
on a case
change,
by
but,
case.
but again, I think it needs to stay between the commissioner, the court, and the developer, not any subcontractors.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, so
I painted
if we
the
need to
wrong scenario.
emphasize that, that it's the developer,
Yeah, we don't wanna be chasing subs.
we don't wanna chase
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
else.
They'll duck out on you,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
And before you, I don't know if the court, since we're discussing this, but back to the road part.
Yes, sir.
If a development is on an existing hard surfaced road, they will have to hard surface their roads.
Well, you need to send us that specifically specifying that.
And if they're not, then they can be the subgrade
Qualify
and the
for an
rock for an exemption,
variance,
a variance.
Okay, then you need
I will-
to send
I
us
will
that.
get that
I
to
would
you,
go
you
along with
see-
that, because I have some subdivisions now that have already got, a lot of pavement in it. And if we go back to what we talked about earlier, they could bring other roads within that subdivision that would just be rock rather than, so if a subdivision's already got paved streets in them, then we need to require them to continue to pave the new streets or whatever they bring into the county MSAG that has to be brought up to the county standards.
Because that way it gives us, like I say, where our logging activity and our oil activity.
Yeah,
or
precinct 3 and
saltwater-
4 is a lot more rural than where precinct 1 and 2
Yep.
are. So
Okay,
we're almost two different
So please
types
send
of.
us that in writing so that we can send it to Jeb for consideration.
And I think integral to that needs to be the differentiation, if there is one, between private and public roads. Because if they were building a public road, and we don't have that road leading to it paved or a hard surface, will we require them to put in a hard wearing surface? Chip and seal or hot
But
mix?
even on a plat that says that the roads are dedicated to the public, we get that a lot. That does not mean that the county is required to maintain them.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Even,
So-
as long as,
Yeah, it says that on a lot of plats, especially the older plats, that the roads are dedicated to the public, but it basically just means that they're not behind a gated community
That they're
that
not
anybody
locked.
can access there. But it does not mean though that the county has maintenance over.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And on that same plat would state that the
Right.
county doesn't anymore.
But a lot of the old plats don't state that.
Okay.
They don't go so far as to say that the county will not take them over or something like that. It's not as defined, so.
Y'all need anything from us?
If there's anything, no, you've done enough damage in one day. No, if there's anything else, other than Tommy teeing us up perfectly, if there's anything else you think of, if you would, then send it to Carrie. If there are any nuances, we probably need to know by Friday. If everybody could get us all their information by Friday, that way she can, go through, double check things and get with Jed, and we'll have it on the next court. So, at this time, we need a motion to, table and place it on the next agenda.
So move.
I'll second.
Next agenda's gonna need an action item, this one's just a discussion.
What's that?
This is just a discussion item, so the next one.
Oh, okay.
would be an action
Oh,
item.
okay, it doesn't say any and all. Okay, well, still, we'll
I
take a
rescind it.
motion, we'll take a motion to add it to the next Commissioner's Court. So that's a motion, Commissioner Vincent, who was my second over here? I was. Commissioner Robertson, to add this as a any and all necessary action. Jed, does that give you enough time?
And so I'll coordinate with Carrie.
Yeah, just coordinate with Carrie, instead of having everybody going a gazillion directions, she'll compile the information, get it to you, and then that way, if we need any further input from commissioners, then we can contact them as well, or if we need clarification. Okay, any further discussion on item number 15? Okay, we have a motion to add it to the next agenda. Any further discussion or questions?
Amen.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Overstreet?
Number 11.
11.
Oh,
Better go back.
oh my
You just
word.
thought you were getting loose.
Y'all are gonna starve me to death.
Carrie, did you order lunch?
If you guys wanna leave, you're free to go unless you wanna hear discussion on bids.
We thank y'all.
Appreciate y'all being here.
See ya.
And you owe me lunch for keeping me here this week.
We can handle it.
We'll bring it in a couple weeks, it might be another long.
Thank you. Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay, we have, okay, Guyleen, basically, what we do when we go through these is we have to do each precinct. And so you can accept the one you have, or you can accept all, and we usually go by precinct. Why don't we start, I'll tell you what, why don't we start with precinct 3? You see what I'm saying? So that Guyleen can kind of see how it
Fine with me?
works. Okay, so precinct 3.
Precinct 3's not here.
Oh, excuse me, precinct 4. We're gonna just accept 4 here, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, precinct 4.
Trying to get down to my precinct 4 bid there, Your Honor. Okay, on, bid number 2022-0401 chip and seal, I want to accept both of them. I want to rebid alternate B.
Yeah, I think.
That will be CCC Blacktopping and Pinto.
Okay.
Contract fuel oil, Cleveland Asphalt, they're the only bidder.
Hot cold mix.
Hot coal mix, I want to, reject those. We have no local bidder on here, they didn't get, wait, no, hang on.
No?
No, hang on. On the Type D coal lay,
That's gonna be East Texas Asphalt,
what,
that we sometimes get our type D from.
yeah, they're not on here, so we need to reject those bids.
On your hot and cold mix, we have Cleveland Asphalt, Vulcan Construction,
Yeah,
and
right.
Walter County
But
Asphalt.
But for some reason, we didn't get a bid from East Texas
The
Asphalt.
dates were confusing on them.
Right.
too,
Okay, so we are gonna reject,
We reject,
so you can reject and rebid?
yeah,
That's probably gonna be all four precincts, correct?
yeah.
And that's fine, we'll do it. I just need to have it for documentation purposes.
And limestone.
Lime stabilization,
Lime stabilization, CCC and Pinto. But also on that alternate B, there's some lime stabilization in there with that process. How are you gonna do that, Ronnie?
Well, I think we were gonna rebid,
Okay,
we were gonna rebid, and then those specs were gonna, those TxDOT specs were gonna go out.
yeah, okay.
okay, so do you wanna accept CCC
Yeah.
blacktopping and Pinto for lime stabilization?
On this right here, lime
Okay.
and cement treatment.
And
yes,
then
ma'am.
just the B or what have, I
The
guess it's
B,
B or B
yeah.
and C, however, if you're gonna do it as two,
Yeah, B and C.
then those would be rebid.
Okay,
And then on the limestone base, I wanna reject that.
reject both?
Yeah, limestone base, precinct 4. Rebid.
Okay, other base materials?
Rebid.
Obviously bulk material is rebid.
Yeah, bulk material is a rebid too, that's one. Well,
Then the-
bulk material on cement, there's no bid on it. On the, train load of rock, bulk limestone purchase, that's.
Okay, can we go to application D, just because that's the order I have them here? Application of type D, hot mix, asphalt, concrete, you had CC blacktopping.
Well, we're limestone base. And then we went to the lime stabilization, limestone base. Other bases is a rebid. D,
Bulk material was no bids,
the bulk material was no bids.
and so application of type D.
That's on Portland cement stuff. What about that, Ronnie?
Well, you know, we didn't have a bid on that last year either.
Type D.
Martin Marietta is the
Yeah.
one that we've always gotten our stuff from.
Type D, I see what you're saying now,
Yeah.
type D asphalt, CCC.
Okay,
And now we go over to the other part. On the bulk purchase of limestone base is a rebid.
202205.
That's where, on the rail site.
That's on the
Oh, okay.
county.
The rail car, yeah,
County.
yeah,
So that's all precincts
Yeah.
together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
rebid that,
It's gonna be ETA.
yeah. And that should be all that.
Tires,
Tires, I'm gonna, with the volatility of everything right now, I'm gonna accept them all.
oil, grease, gas, and diesel,
A huge petroleum,
pest control.
Yeah, we're actually doing these as a group though, right?
yeah,
Well, he's just making a recommendation.
yeah. Pest control, broken air, only bidder.
Motor grade blades,
All of them,
material hauling,
material hauling. I'll do all of them.
Yeah.
Depends on who can, 'cause you usually do that in emergencies anyway. No uniform bids,
okay.
Does that
so
mean,
that's it.
Okay, so those are all coming as a recommendation. Is there anything that anybody else wants to do differently? Everybody got the same bids, right?
Looked like it from what I saw.
Yeah. I think everyone got the same bids.
If not, they can go off hours and accept them as a county.
Correct,
Yeah,
so-
so, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so that comes as a recommendation from Commissioner Overstreet. Do you wanna make that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Motion from Commissioner Overstreet that those be accepted and rejected as stated.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Carrie, did you get all of that? Auditor's office, did you get all of that? Okay.
So ETA, and then the A and, or the B on the ETA or the, whatever the, limestone,
All limestone.
all limestone, and then on the, I guess it'd be B
Crushed
and C
concrete.
or B or however you wanna do it, on the chip and seal.
We done.
Yes, sir.
Most to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Overstreet. I already had the O down.
I just,
Commissioner Vincent, any further discussion or question? All in favor say aye.
Aye. can't understand on these vendors.
I don't either.
As much
I
money
don't-
as we do, they can't get their dates right on it. Oh,
They
I
should
thought
be
it-
hounding
I
us.
thought it was today, no, it's tomorrow. But the problem is everything else is out of town. We gotta travel 45 miles to go eat.
Yeah, just to get what you need.
Yeah, to make our stuff work.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, appreciate it.
Okay, Miss Carrie,